A single splash, a flashlight beam, or a careless movement can trigger deadly curiosity. Seconds decide everything as kayaks flip, limbs are struck, and adrenaline takes over. From midnight swims to storm-swollen estuaries, apex predators strike with terrifying speed. Some encounters end in death, others leave survivors battered and bleeding, but all expose the ocean's ruthless unpredictability. In this video, we'll dive into 6 chilling shark encounters where ordinary recreation turned into desperate fights for survival beneath the waves. On June 20th, 2025, near Gansbaai, South Africa, a wedding celebration unfolded quietly on open water. A luxury yacht lay anchored offshore beneath calm skies, its lights shimmering across the dark sea. The evening marked the union of Isabella Laurent and her husband. Known for her warm nature and adventurous spirit, Isabella worked as an event planner in Europe and had a deep love for travel, water sports, and the outdoors. Friends described her as energetic and fearless, someone who pushed limits while effortlessly bringing people together. The wedding brought guests from different countries. Many had never visited the southern coast of Africa before. Gansbaai is famous for its deep waters and rich marine life, including large predatory sharks that naturally patrol the region. The crew carefully selected the anchoring spot, keeping a distance from shore while allowing guests to enjoy the night air. Champagne flowed freely, and laughter echoed across the deck as the celebration continued well after sunset. As the night grew quieter, several guests gathered near the swim platform at the rear of the yacht. The water appeared smooth and inviting. Spirits ran high and judgment softened under alcohol. A playful idea took shape among the group. They pointed toward a floating buoy positioned a short distance away. The challenge involved speed rather than safety, and excitement replaced caution. Isabella moved closer to the platform with others nearby. The sea below remained dark, hiding depth and movement. When bodies entered the water, splashes broke the surface rhythm. Arms and legs churned as swimmers pushed forward. The sound carried far through the stillness, creating a vibration that traveled deep below. A 17-foot great white shark cruised nearby, following instinct rather than intent. It sensed irregular motion and sudden noise. The predator adjusted course, rising from below with silent speed. Darkness concealed its approach as it closed the distance beneath the swimmers. Without pause, the shark surged upward. Its jaws struck Isabella's lower body with crushing force. The impact pulled her beneath the surface instantly. Water erupted as her body vanished below. Panic spread across the group as others flailed and thrashed, sending more movement across the sea. Guests leaned over the platform, splashing and reaching without control. Crew members rushed forward, but the water remained deep and unforgiving. The shark's strength overpowered every effort as it dragged Isabella farther down. The surface churned violently before settling again. Moments passed that felt far longer. The buoy drifted nearby, untouched. The yacht's lights shone on empty water as movement faded below. Those watching struggled to understand what had just happened. The sea returned to an uneasy calm, leaving fear hanging heavy in the night air as the celebration ended in shock. The water stayed still after the struggle ended. Crew members scanned the surface while guests froze along the rail, shaken and helpless. A safety light swept the area as ropes dropped, but nothing rose. Minutes passed before a body returned, lifted by hands that trembled from strain and fear. Isabella Laurent showed no movement, and severe wounds had ended any chance of rescue before help could reach her. Medical training among the staff guided immediate care. They carried her onto the deck and attempted to aid despite the obvious outcome. Blood loss and trauma had proven fatal during the attack beneath the hull. Those nearby stepped back, stunned by how fast joy had turned into loss. The ocean remained dark, offering no answers and no mercy. Authorities arrived after an urgent call from the vessel. Marine officers secured the scene and escorted the yacht toward the harbor. Guests provided accounts of events, describing splashing, sudden force, and rapid disappearance. Each retelling matched the same pattern of speed and power. Investigators recognized the region as an active habitat for large sharks, especially near deep channels used for hunting. Officials issued a temporary closure around the anchoring zone. Warnings spread across coastal communities about swimming near vessels at night, especially after alcohol use. Marine experts explained that great white sharks rely on movement signals, and chaotic activity can trigger investigation strikes. Conditions that evening aligned with known risk factors. The crew underwent review and support following the incident. Emergency procedures had begun quickly, yet distance, darkness, and depth left little chance against a predator of that size. Training emphasized prevention rather than response, and the event reinforced limits faced at sea. Families of the guests gathered ashore, struggling to accept what occurred. The wedding ended without celebration, replaced by grief and disbelief. Plans dissolved as travel arrangements changed, and many returned home carrying lasting shock. Counseling services became available to those who witnessed the attack, acknowledging the mental impact left behind. Isabella Laurent's family received confirmation later that day. They remembered her energy, kindness, and love for open places. Tributes followed quietly, focusing on her life rather than the manner of her death. Friends shared memories that highlighted warmth and generosity, honoring who she had been before the ocean took her. The shark remained part of the surrounding waters, acting on instinct rather than intent. No effort targeted the animal as authorities stressed the need for coexistence with marine wildlife. The sea around Gansbai continued its rhythms, dangerous and beautiful, unchanged by human sorrow. The incident served as a harsh lesson in the importance of respecting natural environments. Night water, impaired judgment, and powerful wildlife combined into a deadly mix. Survivors carried that knowledge forward, understanding how quickly conditions can shift. Life moved on for the region, though memory stayed. The yacht returned to service after inspection, and the buoy drifted again under daylight. For those present that night, calm water would never feel empty again, holding the weight of a moment that could not be undone. Local agencies reviewed safety guidance and reinforced patrol schedules near popular anchor sites. Education campaigns stressed sober decisions, daylight swimming, and awareness of wildlife patterns. The loss reshaped future ceremonies aboard vessels, encouraging caution where celebration meets nature. Memory lingered as tides rolled, reminding coastal communities that risk demands humility at all times. At sea, eternally. On July 5, 2023, during a sudden tropical storm in coastal Florida, kayaker Riley Thompson entered a flooded estuary while rain clouds still hung low. He grew up near rivers and wetlands and spent years studying wildlife movement. Friends knew him as patient, careful, and deeply respectful of natural water systems everywhere. He often paddled after storms to observe displaced animals and the paths of debris. That day, swollen channels overflowed banks, turning narrow waterways into dark corridors. Fallen branches, plastic waste, and broken reeds drifted fast. Visibility dropped to nothing as muddy water churned under heavy wind and constant rain from the storm. Nearby, Liam Carter followed in another kayak, helping survey flooded zones for trapped wildlife. Both men understood storms could push sea animals inland. Bull sharks often entered such waters, guided by current and scent. Still, the work felt necessary, and they moved forward slowly through debris with steady, controlled strokes. As Riley pushed ahead, turbulent currents shook his kayak. Fish thrashed beneath the surface, sending pressure waves through the hull. Without warning, a 12-foot bull shark surged upward from below. Its body struck the kayak hard, lifting one side and throwing Riley off balance into the dark floodwater. The impact spun the kayak, sending water pouring over its edge. The shark followed instantly, jaws snapping shut around Riley's right calf. Teeth tore through neoprene and muscle with crushing force. Pain exploded as the predator twisted, pulling him toward the churning surface below, filled with debris and branches. Riley plunged into dark water as the kayak flipped away. Branches scraped his arms and chest while debris struck his helmet. The shark thrashed once more, shaking him violently. Nearby, Liam reacted fast, splashing water and striking his paddle to divert attention away from the struggling man below the surface. The floodwaters roared as the shark held on, guided by movement and blood. Riley felt strength fading while the current dragged both deeper between the floating wreckage. Liam stayed close despite danger, creating noise and disturbance. Seconds stretched painfully long as the animal maintained its grip within the flooded estuary channel system. Rain continued to pound the surface, masking shapes below. The kayak drifted upside down nearby, bumping against logs. Riley struggled to stay aware as pain and cold spread. Liam kept splashing without stopping. Then suddenly, the pressure on Riley's legs shifted in the murk as currents swirled harder beneath him. The water movement changed as the shark slowed, circling unseen. Riley clung to awareness while bleeding continued. Liam closed the distance, ready to help if a chance appeared. The storm showed no sign of easing, and the flooded channel felt endless. Everything depended on what happened next beneath the surface of Florida. Pressure eased as the animal loosened its grip and drifted back into cloudy depths. Riley felt the hold break and kicked weakly toward the light above. Blood spread through water, but the predator turned away, following the current and noise farther down the flooded passage. Liam moved fast, guiding the overturned kayak closer while watching the surface for signs of danger. Riley reached the hull and grabbed a side handle with shaking hands. Pain pulsed through his lower leg, and his strength felt nearly gone. He stayed afloat by resting his chest against the plastic while rain continued to fall hard. Liam steadied the craft and pulled Riley toward a shallow bank where roots and grass showed through rising water. Both men struggled against the flow until their feet touched mud. Liam supported Riley's weight as they moved inch by inch toward higher ground. Once clear of the channel, Riley collapsed onto wet soil, breathing fast and pale from loss of blood. The wound on his calf showed deep tearing, but bleeding slowed as pressure from debris and clothing pressed against it. Emergency help arrived later after the weather allowed access. Medics treated the patient for shock and wrapped the injury before transporting the patient to a nearby hospital. Surgeons worked to repair muscle damage and reduce the risk of infection from dirty floodwater. Doctors later confirmed Riley survived due to fast assistance and the shark's quickness. Authorities closed the estuary for several days while water levels dropped. Wildlife officers explained that bull sharks often enter flooded systems during storms drawn by fish and strong currents. Experts confirmed the animal behavior matched a natural feeding response rather than territorial defense. Liam provided a clear account of events, helping officials understand how the incident unfolded. His presence near the attack allowed accurate reporting and confirmed the sequence of actions that saved Riley's life. Without his help, the outcome likely would have been far worse. Riley remained hospitalized for weeks. Physical therapy followed as he worked to regain strength and movement. The injury changed his relationship with stormwater and wildlife work. He later shifted focus toward education and safety awareness for paddlers during extreme weather. The flooded channel returned to normal as rain eased and debris cleared. Fish and birds slowly repopulated the area. No further shark encounters occurred after water levels fell back within the banks. The storm became another entry in weather records, but the attack stayed vivid for those involved. The event served as a reminder that natural systems shift fast under extreme conditions. Storms alter animal paths and raise risks even for skilled people. Riley's survival highlighted the importance of caution, teamwork, and respect for environments where powerful creatures move without warning. Local agencies reviewed response timing and access routes following the incident. Updated guidance stressed avoiding areas prone to flooding during heavy rainfall events. Training programs expanded to include storm behavior education for small craft users. Riley's recovery continued slowly but steadily, supported by family and medical teams. The experience left a lasting respect for nature, power, and unpredictable change. His story later guided safety talks across coastal communities seeking to prevent similar harm during future storms. When water hides danger beneath shifting surfaces and silent movement beyond sightlines. And calm appearance alone never tells the full truth about flooded wild places during severe weather periods, when caution remains the strongest protection for human life everywhere. On March 18, 2024, oil rig technician Jasper Caldwell prepared for a nighttime task off the northern coast of Australia. He had worked offshore for more than a decade and built a strong record for careful maintenance. Jasper grew up near the sea and trained early in mechanical systems and safety rules. Co-workers trusted his focus and steady movement, especially during difficult inspections. Night work remained rare, but his experience made him a clear choice. The platform rose above dark water under a clouded sky. Low tide pulled the sea back, leaving the supports closer to the surface than usual. Recent storms had pushed debris and schools of fish around the rig. Currents moved in slow circles, carrying sound through the metal legs. Jasper secured a safety line to his harness and switched on his headlamp before lowering himself toward the submerged structure. The light cut a narrow path through black water. Small fish darted away as tools touched steel. Every movement sent a vibration through the supports. The water stayed calm on top, but below it shifted with unseen force. Jasper focused on bolts and joints while keeping balance against the gentle pull of the tide. His dropped wrench struck metal, sending a sharp spark across the surface. A 15-foot tiger shark moved through the area at that time. The predator followed currents that carried scent and motion. The shallow depth and storm-stirred fish created an active feeding space. Vibrations from the rig and Jasper's movements drew attention upward. The shark surged without pause. Powerful jaws closed around Jasper's leg and crushed fabric and flesh. The force pulled him away from the structure and dragged him into open water. His safety line tightened as his body twisted. The shark thrashed side to side and shook with heavy strength. The headlamp beam flashed across striped skin as the animal rolled. On the platform above, co-workers reacted fast. Metal rails rang as hands struck them hard. Tools slammed against steel in repeated bursts. The noise spread across the water and echoed through the supports. Jasper struggled to hold position as the shark pulled again. Blood flowed into the current, mixing with debris. The shark tightened its grip and drove downward. The safety line strained under pressure. Water closed around Jasper as the platform lights blurred above. The sea swallowed sound and motion as the struggle continued beneath the rig. Currents pressed harder as time stretched. The line trembled and fibers creaked under strain. Above, movement continued along the deck while shadows shifted below. The predator remained close, unseen yet present, and the water churned with fear, weight, and relentless force beneath dark tides and tightening silence below stillness. Pressure eased as the predator shifted and released downward, leaving the line slackened but damaged. The worker drifted beneath the structure while water carried debris and darkened fast. Co-workers hauled on the tether with all their strength, pulling the body back toward the steel legs. The surface broke with foam as hands guided the weight onto a ladder and then onto the deck. Bleeding continued despite quick action. First aid teams applied wraps and compression while monitoring breath and pulse. The sea remained calm above, yet currents below kept moving fish and fragments. Emergency divers reached the site minutes later and entered, using lights to search the lower supports for further danger. They found none, and the animal did not return. Transport followed under urgent conditions. Medical staff attempted advanced care en route to shore facilities. Injuries proved severe and overwhelming. Life ended before arrival despite continued effort. Co-workers stood in shock and exhaustion as equipment fell silent. An investigation began soon after. Marine specialists reviewed tide tables, storm records, and depth readings. Low water had lifted the hunting zone closer to the platform. Recent weather had pushed prey against the legs and increased vibration. Night operations reduced visibility and raised risk. The shark acted within natural patterns driven by motion and opportunity. Authorities shared guidance focused on prevention. They noted that shallow conditions near fixed structures can concentrate predators during storms. Night inspections amplify hazards when tools strike metal and send signals through water. Safety lines can help with recovery, but cannot stop a powerful animal once contact is made. The platform paused similar tasks and adjusted schedules. Crews revised procedures to limit after-dark work and increased lookout measures during adverse tides. Training emphasized recognizing environmental warnings and delaying non-critical inspections. Support teams offered counseling and time away. Families received formal notice and assistance. Memorial plans honored dedication and years of service offshore. The loss affected crews across the region and reinforced respect for the sea. The incident remained a stark reminder that routine labor can turn lethal under specific conditions. In the following weeks, patrols continued around the rig. Wildlife monitoring recorded normal movement through nearby channels. The predator stayed part of the ecosystem and followed currents elsewhere. Work resumed cautiously and with stricter planning. The platform returned to operation carrying lessons learned, shaped by a single night where depth, weather, and timing aligned with deadly consequence. Regional regulators reviewed permits and required additional barriers and revised lighting plans. Risk assessments updated thresholds for tides and swell before approval. Contractors adjusted staffing to ensure daylight coverage for submerged tasks. Supply vessels altered routes to reduce noise during maintenance windows. Educational briefings were delivered across fleets, emphasizing the presence of species near industrial sites. The event was used as a case study in safety training materials, grounded in environmental factors. Crews practiced emergency pulls and bleeding control drills. Equipment upgrades focused on stronger tethers and faster response tools. Offshore communities remembered the loss and supported recovery efforts. Awareness grew without fear, guided by respect for marine life and careful planning. Operations stabilized under revised standards, and audits continued. Lessons influenced future schedules and investment. The sea remained powerful and unchanged. Preparedness improved outcomes for others. Memory endured through safer practice. Vigilance, training, and timing now guide offshore work in challenging waters across northern Australian industrial zones. On August 9, 2025, along a quiet stretch of the Pacific coast, midnight passed under clear skies. Sophie Reynolds, a 17-year-old student known for her love of the sea, stepped away from a small beach gathering after sunset. She grew up near the shoreline and spent much of her childhood swimming, tide pooling, and exploring rocky coves during daylight hours. Teachers described her as curious and focused. Friends knew her as careful, not reckless, especially around water. Earlier that day, Sophie had explored a cluster of offshore rocks with friends while the sun remained high. The group studied shells, watched seals rest on ledges, and noted safe paths through shallow channels. When night arrived, the beach quieted. Music faded, and only the sound of waves remained. Feeling confident in familiar surroundings, Sophie returned alone toward the water. The ocean felt unusually warm for that time of year. Gentle swells rolled in slowly, and faint glowing plankton shimmered with each movement. The glow made the surface appear alive, tracing ripples with soft light. Sophie slipped into the sea without clothing, planning only a brief swim. She stayed close to the rocks she recognized from earlier exploration. Beneath the surface, a large, great white shark moved through the dark water. Nearly 17 feet long, it patrolled the rocky zone while searching for seals that often gathered nearby. Low light reduced detail, and the glowing plankton reacted sharply to sudden motion. When Sophie kicked forward, the water lit up around her legs. The shark detected the movement instantly. It changed direction and surged upward from below. Within seconds, it closed the distance. Without hesitation, it lunged and clamped onto Sophie's thigh. The force knocked her off balance and pulled her underwater. Powerful jaws held tight as the animal twisted, spinning her through glowing water. Sophie fought back hard, thrashing with arms and free leg. She struggled to keep a distance from jagged stone edges rising beside her. The pull dragged her closer toward the rocks, where waves pushed bodies against sharp surfaces. Pain surged as pressure increased, and her movement slowed. On shore, friends noticed the sudden disturbance. Flashlights swung toward the water as glowing swirls expanded. Shapes moved fast near the rocks. The group rushed forward, shouting and splashing from the shallows, trying to break the focus of whatever held her below. The sea churned violently as the struggle continued, light flashing around them while the predator maintained its grip. Current pulled sideways, limbs numbed, breath shortened. Darkness pressed close as strength faded. Salt stung eyes, heart hammered wildly. Every second felt longer, danger unresolved, outcome uncertain, fear growing. Above, frantic motion continued, hope fragile, time slipping, survival unclear, tension peaking near breaking point. The grip suddenly weakened as outside disturbance grew stronger. Bright beams cut across the surface, and splashing created sharp vibrations through the water. The great white shifted direction, loosening pressure before fully letting go. Its body turned away from the shoreline, and within seconds it faded into darkness, leaving only a drifting glow behind. Sophie floated briefly before sinking again. Blood spread into the surrounding water as warmth drained from her body. Pain pulsed through her injured leg, yet instinct pushed her upward. She kicked weakly with remaining strength and reached toward shallower ground. Hands from the shore grabbed her arms and pulled her free from the surf. Wet stones scraped skin as she collapsed onto the sand, barely conscious. Friends wrapped towels around her body and pressed firmly above the wound to slow bleeding. Flashlights revealed deep injury along her thigh, torn muscle, and heavy blood loss. Panic spread, but focused action followed. Emergency services were contacted immediately while others kept her still and warm. Breathing remained shallow but steady. Rescue teams arrived quickly and rushed her to a nearby medical center. Surgeons worked through the night to repair damage. The bite caused severe tissue loss but missed major arteries. Doctors stabilized her condition after hours of careful treatment. She survived, though recovery required long hospitalization and future procedures. Authorities temporarily closed the beach and issued warnings along the coast. Marine specialists examined conditions that night. Warm water, seal presence, darkness, and glowing plankton combined to create a high risk. Experts explained that sudden movement near rocky hunting zones increased the chances of mistaken identity. The shark's behavior matched known patterns rather than abnormal aggression. News spread rapidly through the region. The incident shocked residents and visitors alike, especially because the area was familiar and previously calm. Officials emphasized that large predators remain active year-round. Swimming alone at night near seal territory posed extreme danger. Sophie remained under observation for weeks. Physical healing progressed slowly, but emotional impact lingered. Nightmares disrupted sleep, and ocean sounds triggered fear. Counseling supported her mental recovery. Family stayed close, grateful she survived while understanding life would change. Community members placed signs near the rocks to remind visitors of the wildlife present. Local groups organized education programs focused on ocean safety and respect. Beach gatherings adjusted routines, avoiding nighttime swimming. The event became a lesson shared quietly rather than sensationalized. The shark continued its natural patrol elsewhere, unaffected and untracked. No effort was made to locate or remove it. Conservation officials reminded the public that such animals follow instincts shaped by millions of years. Months later, Sophie learned to walk without assistance. Scars remained as permanent reminders. She returned to the shoreline during daylight, staying on land as she watched waves roll in. Fear slowly softened into awareness. The sea no longer felt inviting, yet understanding replaced anger. The incident concluded swiftly after the attack ended. It left behind injury, reflection, and respect for boundaries between humans and wild spaces. Survival carried weight, responsibility, memory, caution, and gratitude. On September 14, 2019, fading daylight settled over a shallow reef off the Maldives as Ariana Foster prepared for an evening snorkel. She grew up along the Florida coastline, where swimming lessons and early snorkeling trips shaped her comfort in open water. Years of coastal living taught her how tides move and how marine animals react to disturbance. During college, she studied marine tourism and later worked seasonal jobs near reefs, helping visitors understand safe behavior around wildlife. Night snorkeling became a personal interest, driven by her fascination with glowing plankton and quiet reef life after sunset. That evening, calm water stretched across the reef, broken only by gentle ripples. Ariana entered alone, choosing a shallow area where coral shelves stayed close to the surface. A small underwater flashlight guided her path, sending narrow beams across sand and rock. Each slow kick sent tiny sparks of light flaring around her fins as phosphorescent plankton reacted to movement. The glow felt peaceful, and the reef seemed still. Farther out, a 9-foot scalloped hammerhead moved through darker channels. Hammerheads often patrol reef edges during low-light hours, relying on wide head sensors to locate prey. The steady flashes from the torch and rhythmic fin motion drew attention. Reflected light and drifting glow created the shape of a struggling fish. The shark adjusted its direction and closed the distance without making a sound. Ariana shifted slightly to observe brighter plankton clusters near coral ridges. As she turned, the large shape surged forward. The hammerhead lunged, jaws opening in a fast strike. Teeth closed around her forearm, driving deep punctures into flesh. Pain spread instantly through her arm, and her body jolted backward. Water erupted with sudden movement as glowing particles burst around the struggle. Instinct took over. She kicked hard and twisted, trying to break free. Her free hand pushed against the rough skin while her legs churned, sending light and sand into the water. The shark held briefly, confused by resistance and unfamiliar form. Blood mixed with glowing plankton, drifting upward in cloudy streaks. Above the reef, a small boat floated nearby. Dive guides noticed erratic flashes and sharp movement below the surface. They leaned forward, watching as glowing water pulsed in uneven bursts. The hammerhead circled close, its tail cutting wide arcs through illuminated clouds. Pressure on her arm increased and strength began to drain as fear tightened her chest. Currents pressed gently against coral shelves while her body struggled to stay level. The flashlight beam shook, scattering broken shapes across the seabed. Each kick grew weaker as the shallow reef darkened. The predator remained near, guided by motion and scent. Dusk deepened into shadow, and the calm reef transformed into a narrow space filled with danger, holding the moment just before everything changed. The surface above erupted into a loud commotion as the dive guides reacted at once. Strong splashes struck the water again and again, sending heavy shock through the reef. The sudden noise disrupted the animal's focus. The hammerhead released its grip and pulled away, turning sharply toward darker reef channels. Its broad head vanished into shadow, leaving only drifting glow and fading movement behind. The guides acted fast. Arms reached down and lifted Ariana from the water, supporting her weight as blood streamed from her injured forearm. She remained awake, though shock shook her body. Hands pressed firmly above the puncture wounds to slow bleeding, while others kept watch over the surface. The shark did not return, and the reef stayed quiet as the last glow of plankton dimmed. Once aboard, the group focused on care. Pressure stayed steady as fabric wrapped tightly around the arm. Skin felt cold and muscles trembled from strain and fear. The boat moved away from the reef, keeping a distance from the channels where the animal disappeared. Dusk faded into night and the sea settled into gentle motion. The ride to shore felt long. Attention never left the injury. Blood soaked through layers, but the flow slowed under firm hold. Breathing remained steady, and awareness stayed clear. Pain came in waves, sharp and deep, but she stayed conscious throughout the journey. No further disturbance broke the surface, and darkness closed around calm water. Medical staff met the boat upon arrival. Treatment began without delay. The wounds were carefully cleaned to remove debris and salt. Deep punctures required stitches, and swelling spread across the arm as bruising formed beneath the skin. Muscle damage showed the force of the bite, though bones remained intact. Doctors confirmed the injuries were severe but not life-threatening due to quick rescue and limited contact time. Recovery required close monitoring. Infection risk remained high, and medicine was administered to prevent complications. The arm remained immobilized as swelling slowly decreased. Pain eased over the days, replaced by stiffness and fading discoloration. Full strength would take time, but movement gradually returned. Marine biologists later explained the behavior that led to the incident. Scalloped hammerheads often explore reef edges during low-light periods. Their wide heads hold sensors that detect movement and electrical signals. Unusual light, such as a flashlight, combined with steady fin motion, can resemble prey. In such moments, investigatory bites may occur. These strikes are powerful but often brief once confusion sets in. Experts stressed that night snorkeling increases risk when done alone. Reduced visibility, artificial light, and quiet conditions heighten curiosity among large predators. Even shallow reefs can attract sharks during feeding patrols. Awareness of surroundings and the presence of the group significantly reduces danger. The event left a lasting impact. Confidence in the water returned slowly, guided by caution rather than fear. Plans shifted toward guided dives and strict safety limits. Respect for the reef deepened, shaped by understanding rather than avoidance. The dive guides involved also carried memories of the night. Fast action prevented greater harm, reinforcing training and awareness. Their response showed how preparation and calm judgment can save lives when nature becomes unpredictable. Local authorities reviewed safety guidance for evening reef activities. No action targeted the animal as it acted on instinct within its habitat. The reef remained unchanged, continuing its natural rhythm beneath moonlit waves. With time, scars faded, though reminders stayed. The encounter ended quickly, leaving survival, knowledge, and respect in its wake. The sea reclaimed silence, holding its balance once more. It was May 9, 2025, across the shallow blue waters of the Florida Keys, where wind and waves often collide in fast-moving patterns. Liam Hayes spent most of his free time at the sea. He grew up near the coast and learned board sports early, gaining balance, strength, and confidence through years of practice. Liam worked part-time at a marine supply shop and used every free afternoon for kiteboarding. Friends admired his control and timing, especially in rough water. He trained his body daily, keeping legs strong for landings and arms steady for steering. The ocean gave him freedom and he trusted his skills completely. On this day, conditions turned lively. Wind whipped across the surface, pushing small waves into sharp peaks. Sunlight flashed across the water, creating fast-moving shadows below. Small fish gathered near the surface, drawn by the shifting light and vibration. Liam launched his kite and skimmed forward with speed and ease. Several friends watched from paddleboards nearby, staying clear as they followed his movements. Liam grew taller with each jump, rising above the water before dropping back down. Each landing sent loud splashes outward, breaking the surface again and again. The repeated impact stirred activity beneath him. Below, a blacktip shark moved through the area, drawn by motion and sound. The animal measured around 7 feet and followed the splashing path with interest. It swam just under the surface, reacting to pressure waves and to the shadows cast by the board and kite above. Liam pulled upward into another jump, lifting higher than before. As he descended, his board struck the water hard, sending spray in all directions. At that moment, the shark surged upward. Its movement stayed fast and direct, guided by instinct rather than intent. The animal reached the surface as Liam landed. Its mouth closed around his lower leg for a brief instant. Teeth cut through wetsuit fabric and skin, causing sharp pain and sudden blood loss. The board wobbled as Liam struggled to stay upright. Water churned violently around him. His balance failed and the kite pulled unevenly as control slipped. The sea felt crowded and loud, filled with motion from above and below. Nearby, surface activity increased as those watching reacted quickly to the danger unfolding. The shark remained close, circling beneath the board while Liam fought to stay afloat. Blood drifted in the water, mixing with foam and light. The tension tightened as seconds passed, leaving no clear sign of whether the animal would retreat or strike again. The black tip continued circling just below the surface, guided by movement and scent rather than purpose. Liam Hayes forced himself to focus despite pain spreading through his leg. He tightened his grip on the control bar and shifted his weight carefully, keeping the board between his body and the unseen threat. Each second felt stretched as the wind pulled the kite unevenly, threatening to drag him off balance again. Nearby, friends on paddleboards reacted with urgency. They slapped the water with their hands and boards, sending loud vibrations across the surface. The sudden noise disrupted the animal's path. The shark changed direction, turning sharply as the disturbance grew stronger. It passed beneath the board once more, then slowed, unsure of the chaos above. Liam used that brief opening to guide the kite higher, reducing drag from the water. He kept his injured leg raised as much as possible as he drifted away from the center of activity. Blood continued to leak from torn skin, though the flow lessened as movement slowed. His muscles tightened with strain, but he stayed upright. The shark circled one final time, keeping distance as surface motion increased. After several tense moments, it angled downward and swam toward deeper water, disappearing into darker blue. The immediate danger faded, but fear and pain remained. Friends reached Liam quickly, stabilizing the board and helping him stay afloat. They guided him carefully toward a nearby support boat waiting farther out. Once aboard, they applied firm pressure to the injury and kept him still to prevent shock. The wound showed clear puncture marks and torn tissue, though the damage stayed limited to soft muscle. Medical responders met them on shore within minutes. They cleaned the injury, assessed bruising, and confirmed no major vessels were harmed. Doctors carefully treated the bite to reduce the risk of infection and wrapped the leg securely. Liam remained conscious throughout, though shaken and exhausted. Recovery required rest and patience. Swelling lasted several days, and walking remained difficult during early healing. Physical therapy helped rebuild strength and balance, while mental recovery took longer. The sudden encounter replayed often in his thoughts, especially during quiet moments near the shore. Marine specialists later explained the behavior involved. Blacktip sharks often investigate surface activity, especially in shallow coastal zones. Splashing, shadows, and rapid movement can resemble feeding signals. The animal reacted to confusion rather than hunger, delivering a quick investigatory bite before retreating once conditions changed. Local water sport groups reviewed safety plans following the incident. They advised avoiding crowded fish zones, reducing repeated splashes, and spacing riders farther apart. Liam adjusted his habits. choosing calmer conditions and clearer water for future sessions. Despite the trauma, he returned to the sea months later with renewed respect. He no longer chased attention through risky displays. Instead, he focused on control, awareness, and understanding the environment beneath the surface. The ocean itself remained unchanged. Waves continued rolling across the Florida Keys, and marine life followed natural patterns without memory of the event. The shark resumed its role within the ecosystem, acting on instinct alone. For Liam, the experience became a turning point. It reminded him that skill does not remove risk, and that nature responds without warning. Survival came from quick reactions, nearby help, and a moment of chance. The scars on his leg healed with time, but the lesson stayed clear, carried with him each time the wind lifted a kite above the open sea.